One of the biggest studios in all of Hollywood is preparing to leave and get out of California. An exodus, a rush to get anywhere else. And guess what? Other states are doing their best to court Paramount, Skydance, Warner Brothers, CNN, Discovery, whatever this giant company is. And the leading contender, Tennessee. It just might be the end of California as we know it. Nobody wants to be in the Golden State. Even Silicon Valley is trying to figure out, is there a big enough U-Haul we can take to get all our tech out of here? Folks, as we get ready to tell you what's really going on and why this might be the beginning of a huge change in entertainment, smash that like button. Hit the subscribe if you see the hype. The time is ripe to hit the hype. And folks, if this is your first time on the channel, just know we appreciate you being here. Paramount, Skydance, Warner Brothers, CNN, Discovery, all of these things have been merged together, at least they're in the process thereof. The buyout is done, and now there's just a legal battle happening. California trying to stop Paramount, Skydance, and the Ellisons from getting hold of so much. And guess what, folks? If they are successful, and they will be, this company will be a rival to Disney truly in terms of size and being run by the second wealthiest family of legitimate means, the Ellisons. That Park Place is covering this. Tennessee is courting Paramount as studio weighs future amid California legal battle. This is what's going down. Paramount is buying everything, and Paramount is saying, if you are going to crush us, California, if you're going to try to stop us, we're out of here. We're leaving, and California is doing just that. Paramount made the threat. California fulfilled what they said they were going to do. Now, will Paramount finish the threat? Will they fulfill what they said? Well, there's one state that is definitely in the running. It says Tennessee is making an aggressive play to lure Paramount Global away from California. And according to a new report from the Hollywood Reporter, the studio isn't dismissing the idea. As Paramount finds itself locked in an increasingly bitter legal and political fight with California, which I will add, there is no way California will win this. There is zero chance. This is California cutting off its nose to spite its face. This is California shooting itself in their proverbial feet because they can't stop this. They can only delay it. They can annoy. And guess what? If Paramount leaves, they are taking billions of dollars in economic input as well as taxes right out of the state. It says Tennessee officials have formally invited CEO David Ellison to relocate the company's corporate headquarters to the volunteer state. While no decision has been made, the mere fact that such conversations are reportedly taking place highlights just how uncertain Paramount's future in California has become. According to THR, Tennessee Deputy Governor Stuart McQuarter sent Ellison a letter on July 2nd encouraging Paramount to move its headquarters. The letter emphasized Tennessee's business-friendly climate, contrasting it with California's increasingly hostile regulatory environment. Quote, "Our success is rooted in fiscal discipline, low taxes, predictable governance, and a steadfast belief that government should be a partner in private sector growth. Companies that choose Tennessee find more than a favorable business climate. They find a state committed to helping them succeed." And of course, California, in response, filed with 12 other state attorneys general to squash Warner Brothers' buyout by Paramount. All right, Lou, is it okay if we say where you moved to after you left California? Is that okay?
Sure, no problem.
Right.
Chattanooga.
So, Lou, you moved to Tennessee, and I think you've enjoyed the state. Lou, your thoughts now on a company this large leaving California potentially, and it may not be Tennessee. It may be Nevada. It may be New Jersey. I know you've been hearing things. But, Lou, what would this do to California? And would that perhaps be the catalyst for a bigger exodus where other companies begin to do what they're doing? And
Yes.
one more point real quick, Lou. Elon Musk has already done this too. He took essentially the AI part of SpaceX AI, moved it out of California, and built the Colossus supercomputer in Memphis, Tennessee. So this is happening at scale. Your thoughts?
Well, you have to understand how the union deals work. You have to declare, as a member of a Hollywood union, your base. And the reason for that is if I'm officially Hollywood based and I want to work on a movie in Tennessee or Atlanta or anywhere, they have to pay me what's called distant location rates, which means they have to pay a per diem and they have to pay for hotels and they have to pay for whatever. And in the past, a lot of people have gotten around that, granted technically illegally, and not illegal as far as, going to jail, but as far as the contract, where they've said to people, listen, I can't afford to pay you all of that, but if you've got a friend or you rent an apartment and you just show up on the set on the day As a local, I'd be happy to have you on my show because you're experienced and you'll add to it. Well, what if this happens and that happens with a whole lot more people? We're not just talking about the company and its taxes and incentives and all that going away. We're talking about maybe 30, 40,000 people perhaps moving to wherever. Although, I don't know
How much economic impact, Lou?
Incalculable, because all those people are paying not just state income taxes, which are the highest in the nation, but property taxes if they own a home, and if they have a business. You know, we saw all these businesses spring up in Atlanta for grips and for extras casting and all kinds of stuff when things started happening there. So that's a whole lot of people who will say, you know, they said they're going to make 30 movies a year, and maybe I'd rather be making them there than here. Now, this doesn't mean they would necessarily sell the real estate in LA, although who knows down the road. But it certainly means that if their corporate headquarters is somewhere else, a lot of big shots are going to move. You know, when I was way back when doing a show, and Burt Reynolds built a studio in Florida, and people said, well, why aren't all these shows moving there? Because the taxes are better. And the answer came back, they didn't want to be out of the loop. In other words, granted, they could go do 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months in Florida on a series. But that meant, where's my next job coming from? Well, I'm not going to the parties, and I'm not going to the restaurants, and I'm not schmoozing with my pals to keep me in the loop. Well, if the pals move and you move too, no longer do you have that disincentive to getting out of Dodge. You know, I always tell the story. Before we moved here, we were just visiting and checking it out, and we were in Nashville, and we were going to the Grand Ole Opry, which is something I recommend everybody do, regardless of whether you're a country music person or not. But anyway, we go to the Grand Ole Opry, and we're like 3 hours early, and it was right around this time of year, and it was hot. And across the street, so to speak, is this thing called Opry Mills with restaurants and shops and what have you. And in there's one of these Dave and Buster's. And I said, you know what? We're 3 hours early. It's too hot outside. Let's just go in there and have a snack and a cold drink and chill out. And we sit down, and this little waitress comes over, and she had to be all of, I don't know, 17, 18. And she says, hi, where y'all visiting us from today? I don't know how they knew we were tourists, but they assume as much. And I said, LA, Hollywood. And she says, she freezes. I mean, like literally you stop time. And she says, are you in the industry?
I thought you were going to say, she said, oh, hold on a minute. I'm going to go get my portfolio.
Well, you're jumping on the punchline, because that's exactly what happened. She says, wait right here. And she runs away. She doesn't even leave the menus. And I'm looking at my wife saying, what the hell? And she comes back with her headshot and her resume. And
I would have loved it, though. I would have loved it.
I always tell the story. I said I felt like Al Pacino in Godfather 3 when he says, just when I thought I was out, they dragged me back in.
I would have loved it.
You know,
I would have loved it, Lou, if she had
I was getting ready to leave, when I told friends in Hollywood and said Tennessee, they immediately said, oh, Nashville. And I said, no, it's already too much like LA. Oh. So anyway.
I would have loved it if she had a, you know, if the Southern accent was fake, you know, for the tourists.
Yeah, right.
Was actually,
right.
Yeah, that would have been even better. Right. All right. Before we go to Lauren, Lou, you've lived in California, you've lived in Tennessee. There are other places that are being discussed for this. So you've got Nevada, you've got North Carolina, although I've not heard as much about North Carolina. Texas has been listed. And of course, you're hearing perhaps something about New Jersey. Lou, what would you say in terms of states that might have the greatest chance here, or that you might suggest as should be on the best chance?
The ones we all know that are favorable to business, like Texas and like Tennessee and like Florida. So, you know, it's not those are those states that who was it? CNBC or somebody just made a list of the 10 worst states to live, and they were all red states, because it didn't matter that they had lower taxes and cheaper cost of living and all the rest of it. By God, they're not as friendly to certain minorities or whatever, which is not true either. But
by whatever rubric they've invented, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Lauren, I'm curious what you think about if a company that's going to be now, you know, a rival to Disney says, "See you, California." I wonder what that does to the state of California. Like, does that wake anybody up at that point? Or are we currently in a doom spin? I mean, are we just being flushed down? The Golden State cannot get out of this.
Depends on who you're talking about. I mean, I think it may already be too late for Hollywood to recover, and I think that folks in Hollywood have realized that. I think there's a real concern that it may become the next Detroit. On the other hand, you have insane government. It's the same problem that we have here in Washington with Seattle. You've got crazy people leading these states who apparently don't understand how economics work and don't understand where their taxes come from. So I think they're going to continue to try and tax and make it impossible for people to leave the state and try to tax people who are leaving the state. I think they're going to try everything that they can to squeeze as much money out of everybody as they can until those who can get out have, and the ones that are left are in a smoking crater. So you'll wake up the industry, but it's too late. What you need to do is replace your politicians, and until they have a completely non-functioning state, that's where you're at. You're in real trouble.
Lorna, it's just occurring to me, I think California had crossed the line when they ran Elon Musk out of there. Whatever you might think of him, they literally made it inhospitable for the world's richest man leading maybe the most promising and exciting companies to operate inside their state. And that might have been where the end, you could kind of see this. There was no way out of that once they started chasing Silicon Valley. I mean, what else does California have than Silicon Valley? And they're running Silicon Valley out of San Francisco to go everywhere else.
Well, what they first started running out, though, before that, were insurance companies. They started putting restrictions on them as to what they could do and couldn't do that were so awful that people said, well, I'm just not going to sell policies in your state anymore. And then also the oil business, they ran out. But the one thing to remember is that this is not exactly new, because at the dawn of the movie studio era, even though the studios were in California, the home office for Paramount, New York. Right. And so the boards and the top executives were all in New York, and the studios were on the coast, as they say. So it would be going back to a system that operated a long time ago. So,
Lauren, add to that, please, though, that the tech side of this too, and then you've got like the new media is largely leaving. Like, Nashville has become a hotbed for the new media. So, Lauren, it seems like the excitement, right? I mean, oil is important. Yeah, that's an understatement. But like the futurism, the hot idea of California, that's where the future is taking place. Kind of feels like that's evaporating.
Well, yes. I mean, in California especially, and other states as well. In a lot of ways, I think many segments of our society right now are in the middle of a collapse. And it's kind of interesting if you start perusing like job search sites and places where you get tips for spiffing up your resume and finding jobs. It's one of the worst job markets out there that I've ever seen, and it's because you have so much industry disruption going on. One of the interesting things about this is I talked to Clifton Duncan about this a couple of years ago, wondering if it would be possible for another entertainment hub to come into existence, and he was skeptical about the idea, partially because of the influence of all of the guilds. He says that it is so regimented and rigorous about how the entertainment industry works that he was unsure how you would ever reconstitute it somewhere else. So there's a part of me that wonders that if theatrical collapses entirely and you can't easily rebuild Hollywood, do we go back to other forms of entertainment? Do you start having plays and radio taking a resurgence? I don't know.
Radio.
I don't know. I think we're in a weird place where nobody's quite sure what's going to happen.
I think theater, live music, all of that is going to take off in the years to come. But folks, it's not just a migration of Americans. It's not just an exodus from some of these coastal states. Folks, it's an economic change. A tsunami is happening, and it may be escalating. California really has made a horrible mistake. Their mistake is the gain of other places, but this chasing Paramount out is going to do grave damage, and it could be the beginning. This is what's even worse for them. It could be the beginning of other studios saying, why are we here then? The proximity promise is no longer what we were told. It's time to move. We're getting out of here. One of the greatest things we get to do each and every day is speak out and reach out to folks who don't know how entertainment works. And frankly, we think entertainment matters so much. It's why we do what we do. and you can help us send this out to even more folks. Click that like button, share, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. And wouldn't you know it, folks, we're even on Patreon. It's www.patreon.com/WDWPro. We've got to go, but until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.